Welcome to the Johnson County Library's 2024 Writers Conference. If you have any questions, look for a staff member wearing the pink shirts you might have seen. If a session is full or has already started, please don't enter. There are plenty of come and go options in the library. And we are grateful for the Joan Berkeley Writers Fund administered by the Johnson County Library Foundation for their ongoing financial support of all of our writing programs. My name is Ashley Fick, and I am a program coordinator at the Johnson County Library. Today's program is part of our 9th annual Writers Conference. Check out our For Writers page for more information about writing contests, the JoCo Writes blog, and other resources and events. If you tag us on social media, don't forget to use the hashtag JoCoWrites. And there will be time for questions throughout this session. Please raise your hand, let us know, and then don't start asking your question until you have a microphone because we are live streaming, so your voice won't be picked up otherwise. So we are very excited to have with us Erin Oliva. Erin Oliva has the privilege to own and run the Pretty Posy, a books and gift boutique in the heart of historic downtown Overland Park. She lives in Mission with her 3 kids and husband, who she adores. She loves being around people and has always enjoyed shopping locally at locally owned shops and boutiques, and loves to read and talk about books. With that, we'll turn it over to Erin Oliva for working with bookstores.
All right. Hello. Okay, so this is just I want it to be casual. I want it to be a conversation. Welcome. I want to kind of pull back the curtain on what it's like to be a bookseller. I want you to kind of know a little bit about the bookseller's point of view so that when you are pitching your book, you have the best chances and that you kind of leave a really good taste in the bookseller's mouth, okay? Because there are things. So I have had a store in downtown Overland Park since 2021. We started as a clothing boutique. I got really burnt out, did not enjoy it, and so I closed that and opened a bookstore in the same space, and I love it. It's still hard. Owning a store is really hard, but I enjoy it. I love it. So if you're gonna do something really hard, you better enjoy it, is what I always say. So anyway, so I've only been open as a bookstore since March, but I have had lots and lots of discussions with authors, and I have heard from a lot of authors and a lot of publishers, like the smaller publishers. Welcome, ladies. You are fine. Come in. So I have a really good idea of some things that you really need to do before and when you approach an independent bookstore. Now, I will say that I know about independent bookstores. I don't know about Barnes & Noble so much. So this is from the perspective of an indie bookstore. Also, different indie bookstores are owned by different people who have different ideas and different personalities. This is my point of view, although I will tell you that I've talked to other booksellers that have a little bit different point of view from me. So I do think I have some insight for you. So just so you know, there are, and you may already know this, but from the people I talk to, maybe not everybody knows this, there are thousands of books published. I mean, thousands and thousands. Every Tuesday, books are released into the world. That is a lot of books, okay? As booksellers, we are approached in person. I'm talking daily. In person, direct message, email, snail mail, every which way you can possibly imagine being approached. I do not say this to sound defeating or anything. I just want you to understand the challenge and understand the point of view of the person that you are talking to. So you have to understand that, like, every which way we are approached every single day, and there's just tons and tons of books. And as an independent bookseller, we have limited space and we have limited money, so we have to make decisions, okay? It's important to understand these things before you talk to an independent bookseller, okay? That doesn't mean that you can't get your book into an independent bookstore, but there's a couple things you really need to think about, okay? So 2 main things that are non-negotiables that you really, really gotta think about, okay? The first one is do your research, and the second one is to be prepared, okay? Research. Do not pitch your book to a store just because it's a bookstore, okay? Do not go into every bookstore in town to pitch your book just because they're a bookstore. That isn't a great approach, okay? I would first check out their social media, follow them on social media, support them on social media. Look, what kind of bookstore is this? So independent bookstores, like I said, we have limited room and we have limited money. And so we can only, carry a very small amount of books that are out there. Many, many independent bookstores have kind of their specialty or their vibe. So, for instance, my bookstore, as you can probably tell by the name, the Pretty Posy, we are a very feminine bookstore. If you walk in, you will know that we are a very feminine bookstore. We have all genres. All book lovers are welcome. We have men that shop with us, so that's not what I mean, but you can tell that we specialize in books for women. In fact, I always say we have all genres, but we specialize in books for women who read for fun, okay? Our best-selling genres are romance and romantasy, okay? And that's not necessarily something, I promote all of our books and we sell all genres, but those are the ones that we sell the most in kids' books because we got a lot of mamas that come into our store, okay? So look at all the bookstores you're interested in. Follow them on social media. Look and see. Go into their store, okay? See, with no expectation. You are not pitching your book at all. You go into their store and you see. What do they sell? What is their vibe? What are they doing here, okay? And see if your book fits, okay? Because if you come into, so I had an author, and I love authors, so please know this. But I had an author come into my store, and he had a lovely book. I could see exactly who would be interested in this book. But it was like a horror book, and it had a really grotesque cover. And that has an absolute clientele, right? But that is very niche, as are we. So it really was about the opposite of what we would carry in our store or what our clients or customers would be interested in, okay? So instead of spending your time and energy going to everybody, find who vibes with what you're doing, okay? And like I said, you do this through going to their social media. That's a great place. And then going into the store, okay? Do they seem to have a specialty? Most indie bookstores are going to carry all genres, but do they seem to kind of have a specialty? Do they carry independently published authors? Like, do they have a section? So I have a section of indie authors, okay? And it does pretty well. But some stores don't, and that's just not something that they're interested in doing. In my opinion, you have a better chance of getting into a newer bookstore, a smaller bookstore, than you will a more established bookstore, okay? Like I said, I'm coming from my perspective, and that is how I feel about that. I feel like some of the newer bookstores, they, like my customers enjoy indie authors. Like a lot of them are seeking that out, okay? So that's one. Do your research. Don't just go into every bookstore. Know about this bookstore, okay? Know who you're talking to before you walk into that store, okay? Because it's going to be obvious if you don't. 2, be prepared, okay? I understand that it is hard to pitch your own thing. It's hard to sell. It's hard. But that's what you're doing, okay? And so you need to be confident and you need to be prepared, okay? You need to know what your goal is. What do you want? There's a lot of different ways that you can work with a bookstore. So do you want the owner or the buyer or the manager or whoever, or one of the booksellers, do you want somebody to read your book? Is that kind of your goal? Do you want to do a signing or work together on an event? Is that what you want to do? I have a local author named T. Harlow. She writes romantasy. We have established a relationship, which I will talk about in a minute. She established a relationship with me. We are similar people. We're moms, similar age. And she pitched a romantasy event at the store with me, and we worked together on that. And then she invited a couple of her other author friends, and that worked out really well. So that maybe is something that you would like to do. Maybe that's your goal. Do you want to just do a book signing or a book reading? Do you want the store to purchase your book and have it in their store for sale? Is that what you would like? So you need to know what you want. I will tell you that you're going to have much more success if you offer consignment, and it's possible that your consignment will only be paid quarterly, okay? Because I will tell you, so if we buy from a wholesaler like Ingram, we get a 42% discount on our books, and we get returns. We can return books. Now, with a wholesaler like Ingram, you do have to pay a reshelving fee, okay? If you work directly with the publishers, you're going to get up to like 50% discount and free returns. You can return anything, you have to pay for shipping, but they will give you all of your money back. So you kind of have to understand what you're working with here. If you offer consignment, then, if the books don't sell, the bookstore isn't out anything. So I would just go ahead and expect that and offer that with your pitch, okay? Make sure what you're doing is short, that it's sweet, and that it's prepared. Bookstore owner, different bookstores, some have manager, like I'm my manager. I'm the manager of my store, and then I have booksellers, okay? But whether it's me or a manager or a bookseller on the floor, we're all busy. And, what's going on around you? Is the store busy? Because if the store's busy, that bookseller needs to be selling books, okay? So, I've had people come in and do it really, really well, and I'm gonna share what they have done. And then I've had people come in and they're not prepared. Their book does not belong in my store. It doesn't vibe. That doesn't mean it's a bad book. It just means it's not the same type of book that sells in my store. And they're not prepared, and I've had to kind of like lead them. So this would be kind of a way not to do it. And I love these people in my heart, so please know. I'm just trying to give you, They'll come in, and they'll be like, okay, I wrote a book. And you're like, great. And then they'll stop. And you'll say, okay. Or they'll just go on and on and on and on and on and on about their book because, of course, they're excited. And I'm excited. But I don't know what you want. And so I'll say, okay, well, would you like me to stock your book in my store? Yes. Okay. So how would I go about purchasing your book? Oh, well, so just know these things, okay? And like I said, consignment is what it's going to be, okay? So a non-negotiable is you have to bring a book to the store or for the store. It is a free book. It is a gifted book. It is part of your marketing costs. You will probably not get the book back, and it does not mean that they're going to stock it in your store. Okay? But your hope is that you're prepared, you have built a connection and a relationship, which I'll talk about in a minute, and maybe somebody will read it, and maybe someone will love it, and then they will carry it in their store. Okay? You must have a book to give. All right? I would also have a one-pager or a postcard or something like that. I would have a cover image of your book, because they're going to get a lot of these, like I said, in the mail, email, walk-ins, you know what I mean? And so have that so that they can remember. A brief summary of your book, your information, your email, your phone number, your social media, because if it's a book that I think might possibly work well in my store, I will go to the social media to see, what's going on there. And your social media is kind of a way to introduce yourself without introducing yourself. You know what I mean? It shows who you are and what you got going on, okay? Like I said, how to order. Consignment usually is, so you give however many books that the bookstore wants, and if they don't sell it, they'll come back. However, you guys can talk about how long the book's going to be in there, or the bookseller can just come back to you whenever they're ready and say either I didn't sell any, you can come pick up your books, or I sold this many, but I have this many left. I think it's time for you to pick up your book or whatever. And whatever you've sold, the bookseller will give you 60% of the retail, and then they will keep 40% of the retail, okay? Some bookstores, some bookstores may charge you like a credit card processing fee, because those are getting real out of control. So that is a possibility too, so be prepared for that, because you never know. That may not be the terms, that's the terms I use, and I think that's usually what people do. Understand that it's possible that a store will decline to take your book, okay? Either they don't sell independently published authors, they don't have time, they are having a bad day, or they don't think the book really would belong in their store, okay? Or would fit well. That's okay. It's okay if that happens. A no is just a no. You are still fabulous, and you will be okay. All right? And no's are hard, and I understand. I'm always extremely kind to the authors that come into my store, because I know the blood, sweat, and tears that you are putting into your books and how hard it is to write a book. I can't write a book, so I'm always very kind and very accepting and very interested, but not everyone's going to be that way, okay? And I will say, even though I am kind and accepting, I'm also really busy. And so, if the store is busy, I would probably not come in on a Saturday morning. That's not a great time. Yeah.
Is it good to make an appointment?
I will talk about that in a minute. Well, I'll just talk about it right now. Yes, you can. You don't have to just come into the store cold turkey, and I will talk about making connections in a second. But, I'll have people email or DM me on Instagram, or phone call, and ask, or like the smaller publishers, they'll, send me an email and ask like what the best way to get a book into the store is. And I'm going to be 100% honest. I'm real busy. I do not answer a lot of my emails, okay? I just have to choose, you know what I mean? And so I think it's totally fine to do that. I think you just have to decide how you want to do it. And then if you get a response, great. If you don't, that doesn't mean you can't bring it in. The people that come in and really leave a good impression are just real quick, and they're enthusiastic, and they're excited, and here's my book. I'll talk a little bit about how to kind of get a leg up. So like, you have to have a book to give, and you have to have the information, okay? And what do you want, and how do you order? And like I said, consignment, but how do I order? Like, am I calling you? Am I emailing you? And I'll tell you, I don't like phone calls. I have too much going on. I have no idea what we said. No idea. I don't remember any of it. And so I prefer emails or even Instagram DMs. Okay, so those two things. You must do your research, and you must be prepared, okay? Things to help your pitch. I call them a pitch because it's a pitch, okay? So things to help your pitch. Make sure that your book looks professional and that it's professionally edited, okay? That seems kind of obvious, but just make sure that, because your book reflects on the person who is selling it, okay? And people come to independent bookstores specifically for book recommendations. So Barnes & Noble's great, and they have every book under the sun. And they do have sweet booksellers, but it's not quite the same as going into an independent bookstore and talking and getting book recommendations, okay? And plus, when you're going into an independent bookstore, the reason a lot of them have kind of specialties, and I have a specialty, is because I am the one who's ordering the books. I spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, and it's the most fun thing ever, going through all the publishers' catalogs and picking out just the right books, okay? Because I have limited space and I have limited money. Okay, so I can only pick certain things. Now, the very cool thing about books, because if you remember, I said I used to have a clothing boutique. When we ran out of the clothes, we ran out of the clothes. Or somebody wants, I don't want that, but I want this. I couldn't order it. I just didn't have it. Books, if it's in print, I gotcha. I can order it, and if I get it from Ingram, I can get it in like 2 days. So that is the good thing about books. Okay, so a professional book, professionally edited. 2, okay, you guys, you have to have a healthy social media, okay? Because like I said, when I am approached by an author and I feel like their book might be a good fit, I will take the time to go onto their social media. It cannot be your personal social media. It needs to be, and I know, it's hard. But it doesn't have to be super hard, because I was telling Eileen here, I am 45. And so I did not grow up with social media. I am not like a social media expert, but most of our clientele come in through social media, through Instagram. Pick one, you don't have to do everything. I have Instagram. I think that my Instagram posts like automatically go to Facebook, but I don't really even know. I do not do TikTok, I do not do Twitter, I do not do any of those things. I pick one, because limited time, right? And I make it very simple. Now, I will say I've been doing it since 2020, because before I had a store, I had social media, but I don't really do anything on it. So it's taken me a little bit of time, but it doesn't have to be fancy. And you can go look at other authors and kind of see what they're doing. You do not have to have your book done. It does not have to be ready. You can do book recommendations. Book people love book recommendations. That's what I do all day, every day, and it's fun. And you can you can go on mine, where the Pretty Posy, P-O-S-Y-K-C, and kind of see what I do. I have kind of like I do it pretty much the same every time, and I'm like, so yesterday I did 5 of the best historical fiction books published in 2024. And then do you know what I did? I showed 8. And then I had to go back and edit and say, that wasn't 5, that was 8. So like, don't be perfect, it's fine. I'm like, I can't count. I couldn't choose, I think it was the thing. So just make it simple, and I just say the 5 of the best, and then I just literally hold it up. Blah, 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 okay? I don't even say anything, I don't do a summary, I just like hold them up, and it works, okay? And almost everybody who comes to my store comes through Instagram. Let's see, post about books, yours and other books, obviously kind of the same genre, or people who would have the same interests, books that are the same as yours. Bookish things, you can show behind the scenes of your writing process. That's really cool. And then eventually selling your book, okay? But social media is more about connection and brand awareness than about selling, okay? All right, so you have to have your social media. Also, as a bookseller, if I'm looking and I have to choose what books I want to carry, and you have a good social media, and I can tell you have a good following, well, gosh, that's helpful for me, right? You've got a bunch of bookish people who love books, and you're going to tell them that your book is in my store. So that's a really, really helpful for you if you can do that, okay? I mean, if social media is not your thing, because here's another thing. If your people are not on social media, don't be on social media. That doesn't make any sense. My people are most definitely on social media. If yours are not, don't be there. Where are they? Like, Can you go to vendor events? Can you do, Irene said that she does speaking. Like, where are your people? And that's where you want to be. I would highly, highly suggest an email list, okay? It's very easy for me to get people on my email list because I have a store, and at every checkout, we ask for their email list and whether they would like to receive our emails. But there are ways, I won't get into that. That's something you can research about marketing. You can Google it. There's lots of free information out there. I mean, like, you could send an email once a month. It doesn't have to be, like, all the time. Okay, so social media. Also, connect and build relationships. It is, in my opinion, you do not want to just walk into a store. I've never been into this store before. I've never talked to these people before. I have no idea what's going on in the store. And then I'm going to sit here and talk about my book and expect them to carry it. You might be successful, but you'll be more successful if you make connections. Okay, read the book, and this is an oldie, How to Make Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Has anybody read that book? Okay. It is amazing how, and me too, we're very self-absorbed. We are coming into the bookstore and we're worried about our book, of course. So all we're doing is talking about our book and me, and I'm not listening and I'm not paying attention. I feel like Dale Carnegie's book really makes you be like, oh. Because like one part of it, he talks about when you're having a conversation with someone, we're always thinking about what we're going to say next, instead of actually listening to what the person is saying and kind of relating to it and how, and then responding, connecting to them, and asking about them and what they're interested in. And I think that's interesting because I was like, oh my gosh, I totally do that. I'm thinking about what I'm going to say next instead of actually listening to the person. So anyway, I highly suggest that book because it just really gets you thinking about how to make genuine connections, because our connections need to be genuine. We are excited about this bookstore. We are only going into bookstores. I mean, we can go in the bookstores when we're doing our research, right? But the ones that I'm going to pitch to are the ones that I relate to, the ones that I love. You need to go in and you need to buy books, okay? Like, not just once. I'm not saying you have to spend all your money, but like, support the bookstores that you want to be in, okay? Talk to the booksellers about books, make connections. That's what any bookstore sellers want to do, is they want to make connections and talk about books. That's why they're there, okay? My booksellers don't make a whole lot of money, but do you know what I have? I have a huge Excel list of people who want to work at my bookstore because it's fun. Okay, and book lovers love books, and they also get a discount on their books. So follow the stores that you're interested in approaching on social media, and okay, share their stuff on social media. Comment on their stuff. Like, be interested in them so they know who you are. And share them with your book people. And then ideally, this begins way before you're ready to sell your book to the bookseller, okay? So like I said, your book does not have to be ready. You can do this way before, okay? All right, make sure that when you go into a bookstore that you're being natural, you're being genuine, you are really there with the bookstore, and places that you love, they are you feel like you have a connection with, okay? When you're ready to pitch your book, okay, remember I told you have to have your book to give away, and you have to have a one-page or a postcard with your information on it. Okay, I love it. Like I said, this is just me. I love it when they come in with a cute little gift bag, and it has a book in it, and it has their one-page or their postcard, and maybe has a little swag, and maybe has stickers or bookmarks, branded kind of. And it is a enemies to lovers romance set in a Christmas ski town. Right? And I just want to get did I wear it out? I'll just hold it. And then just be like, and my information's in the back. Okay, so a lot of times this happens, I'm not on the floor, I'm doing whatever I'm doing, and it's my bookseller. But you know what my bookseller is going to do? They're going to come to me and say, hey, so-and-so stopped by, and they're going to tell me if you were delightful or if you weren't delightful, okay? Whether they were excited about your book or whether they weren't excited about your book, okay? So I don't know. I just really enjoy that, and that really, that's how, that kind of is different for me, okay? Be confident, be friendly, and be enthusiastic, but to the point. Like I said, we don't have time to like listen to a whole bunch, but we, did you hear what I just said about that book? Just give kind of like short and sweet, but be excited, okay? Don't take a bunch of their time. They're trying to run a bookstore and sell books. If they engage with you and they ask questions, of course, you can continue talking. But I always say, read the room. I tell my booksellers this, read the room. If you see like a bunch of people or you notice they're kind of like busy, just, read the room, okay? Other things to think about. It's okay to follow up. You should, because you might not hear back. But do not do this excessively, okay? And be friendly. Do not get frustrated with the bookstore. I've had authors get frustrated. And I get it. They really want their book in stores. But that will burn that bridge. If you continue to make the connections, continue to come to their store, if you want to, if you still want to, continue to engage on social media, and maybe there will be an opportunity like down the line, okay? Just don't, you can be frustrated, just don't show it, okay? The owner or manager may not be the person that you are speaking to, but like I said, the booksellers are going to tell them what they thought and how they felt about you, okay? All right, so that's all I've got about that, but there's one huge thing we have to talk about that I'm not sure everyone is aware, and that is Amazon, okay? It is, and I think it's great, that it is easier for people to publish books and get them out in the world because Amazon is there. I am a new bookseller. I also enjoy Amazon. I mean, it's helpful. It has its place. And in my mind, I am not trying to be Amazon in any way, shape, or form. So I do carry Amazon published books in my store. But I will tell you that some bookstores, especially bookstores that have been in business a while, and I will tell you, if they were in business when Amazon was like in its book selling heyday, which it still is, but I really feel like the pendulum is swinging back because bookstores are opening all over the place and they're successful because people are like, wait a minute, I can't go to a bookstore on Amazon, you know what I mean? And I can't go talk to someone about books on Amazon. So I do feel like, people are starting to come back to bookstores. But if the bookstore was open, Amazon wants to put bookstores out of business. Like, we cannot compete, bless you. Our margins are not very high. Like I said, like 42% discount, 50% discount, that's not a lot, okay? So you're gonna get some really angry booksellers. So just know that going in and understand. That's why I really feel like a newer bookstore, you're gonna have more success, especially if you're Amazon published. Yeah, oh, do we need the mic for questions?
Can you clarify what you mean by Amazon? Are you saying you don't like working with sellers that are published via Amazon, or are you saying that you do? Or
I do. Me personally, I don't mind. I have Amazon published books in my store. But I'm telling you that there are many bookstores that will never work with Amazon published books. So you have to, when you're deciding on what kind of market or selling you're going to do, you might have to make a choice. You know what I mean? Independent booksellers sell their own books. I mean, there are very, very successful independent authors that sell hundreds and hundreds of books, right? Book Talk is huge. I'm not on it, but Book Talk is huge, and then a lot of times if these independent booksellers are really popular on Book Talk and then they sell a whole bunch of books, do you know what publishers do? They pick them up, they re-edit their books, they put beautiful covers on them, they market them, and then they sell them. We sell those all day, every day, those kind of books. And I am not saying that you should not publish on Amazon. Okay, you just have to be aware, and I know that some authors are not aware because I heard a story about a bookstore. It was actually Helen, right, who she invited me to speak here. She told me she was talking to one of the owners of one of the bookstores in town, and the bookstore owner had an independent author come in and do a book signing. And do you know what she was telling everybody? You can buy my book on Amazon. Go to Amazon. So, I mean, and I'm sure she didn't do it on purpose. I'm sure she wasn't trying to be whatever, but she just didn't know. So you just have to understand that that is a choice you're making when you publish on Amazon. Now, I am not a writer. I'm not a publisher. I don't know. I think Ingram has a publishing arm, but I don't know. I don't know. That's just something. And like I said, it doesn't mean you can't publish on Amazon. Just know that you're cutting out some options. But I work with Amazon published authors. Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'll wait for the microphone.
That you have, my friend. I just stand in awe of her social media capabilities. But she made an Instagram video and outlined all the reasons why she self-published and exactly how the money worked. And it's very interesting. So I would recommend that to anybody who's thinking about it. Because I don't know how she learned all that stuff. Maybe she could recommend a book or something, but it is very complicated how they're doing a lot more hybrid, self-published, but with a partner that helps supply ISBN numbers.
And it's not Amazon, it's something different?
Yeah, I can't remember exactly all the details, but I think she self-published through Ingram Spark or one of those similar ones that is not Amazon, and she did that intentionally. She also got the audiobook published by who is money per book she would make, and it ended up being $4 versus 75 cents with traditional publishing. So it was very interesting. That is interesting. And I looked at that and I'm like, well, how did she learn all that stuff? Well, I'll tell you.
I'll tell you. I don't know if anybody did anything without Google. So I started my store in 2021 as a clothing store, and I never even worked retail. So I had no idea. I had no idea how to start a business. I had no idea how to order clothes. I had no idea. And then when I switched to books, I had no idea how to order books. You Google it. You spend hours and hours and hours figuring it out. You make a whole lot of mistakes. You spend a lot of money you shouldn't have spent. And you figure it out. Remember how I said I switched to books because if something's going to be this hard, you better enjoy it? This is what I mean. You just owning a business, which writing a book is owning a business because your point is to sell books, right? I mean, unless it's a hobby, which is fine too. But it's just daily figuring it out. You're like, I need this to happen. How am I going to make that happen? You know what I mean? And then you Google and you call, I've had to call the government. Oh my God. When I started hiring my first person, which was right at the very beginning, I almost quit. I almost said, I can't do it. Because they're like, they never make any sense. And then they send you to another agency who says, oh no, but you're supposed to talk to them. And you're like, well, they're who sent me here. And nothing makes sense anyways. So that's, yeah, you just have to figure it out. But thankfully we have Google. All right, that's all I have on my list, so please, questions are welcome.
For you go on that website, you review the users' comments, reviews. You know, Instagram Sparks has a lot of issues. I published with KDP, but my first book, when I published it, I had pages falling out. Oh my gosh, yeah. And so I had to, get a hold of them and reorder and so forth, and then send them. Okay.
Yeah.
But there are issues with any publisher and any hybrid publisher and so forth. So one lady came to me, I did business editing. She brought me a contract from a publisher. And she was ready to sign with this contract. Oh yeah, this is great, I'm gonna sign. And I'm not an attorney, but I read that contract. One of the clauses said that they had the right to take any or all of her book, combine it with any or any other books, and publish it.
Oh, wow. You need a lawyer to look at any contract. When I was signing my lease for my store space, I didn't have a lawyer, but I had a real estate agent. It's like, well, what if the furnace stops? What then? Who pays for that? And he put a clause in my lease that was like $350 max a year for any maintenance and repairs are on me. Everything else is on them. So yeah, definitely have someone look at your contract especially because there's like a lot of words and you're like, what does that even mean? And all right, any other questions? Yes.
If you're willing to do some other kind of event with the book, like a workshop or something like that, are you more likely, or does that seem like a burden?
I have had people come and want to do different things in my store and do events and stuff like that. I don't think it's a burden, but like I said, it just depends on if the bookseller feels like their people will be interested in that. But bookstores, indie bookstores do that kind of stuff all the time. Like having a book signing or like your launch event at a store, you can always ask. I am very interested in doing stuff like that. Some stores may and some stores may not. All you can do is ask, right? And all they can do is say no. And that doesn't feel very good, but you'll be all right, right? Again, if it's a newer store, they're not like Rainy Day. They're a very established store. They make a lot of sales. They get to have events with the big publishers, okay? Because there's it's like an event grid with the publishers, and you have to pitch and be like, I want to have, authors come to my store, and then the publishers get to pick which stores they want their books to be at. Well, Rainy Day can get those big because they can make a lot of sales, and they can prove that they can make a lot of sales. Well, I've only been open since March. I'm not gonna get Emily Henry or whoever, who I don't even think does, book tours. But so those are the kind of stores where you guys can work together, But like I said, if you already have a social media following and you already have people that you can how can you work together? How is this good for the bookstore too? You know what I mean? So yeah, you can ask. And different bookstores are gonna be interested in doing different things. So, but that's where your research comes in too, right? So, yeah. Oh, yeah.
What has been your favorite or most creative event or pitch that you've gotten since you've been doing this?
Okay, so the only events that I have done with people And I haven't done a ton. I'll tell you which ones I've done because we've just opened. But like I said, I've just opened. But look, I have all this because I've talked to so many, authors. Like when I was talking to Helen, we had coffee about how we could kind of work together, and we started talking about this. She's like, "That's it. You can go do a talk about it." Because I was like, "Oh, if authors only knew, da 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 da." You know what I mean? And so the only people I've worked with are people who we built a connection on social media. And then there's a couple authors who their books aren't done yet, but I'm super excited to work with them. One gal, she comes into my store. I remember her. She talks to me. She brings her kids in. She buys books. So we've had, let's see, what have we had? We had a romance bookstore day. We had 3 local independently published authors come in and do a book signing. We had a romantasy event, and 3 more authors came in and did a book signing. And then we did a book launch. That was so fun. So for me, for book launches and book releases, if you're an independently published author, and this is me, this is not going to be all bookstores, I do not take any of the money from a book release. So if you're releasing your book, to me, that is your money. I'm just hosting you, right? It's your party. I'm just hosting you. But I will help market it. I've had several years of experience in marketing, and so some of the authors don't quite get all the information they need, in their graphic. And I'm like, oh, great, but where are we going? What time? You know what I mean? So I'll help out with that because I want them to be successful. So I don't take any cut of that. But then when people come in, they buy books too, and then they also know we're there. So we had a book launch, and then we have another release party next Friday. And I think that might have been it. We also host book clubs. We don't have our own book club yet. Every day somebody asks me if we're gonna have a book club. I know, and I'm like, who's gonna run it? But that's next on the docket. But we'll host your book club if you wanna come in. So those are the ones we do. But like I said, these are all people that they have built a connection with me through Instagram's my thing. And then coming into the store. In fact, the first one I did, it was before I was even open, and her name's Bianca Miller, and she had a blog. She's had a blog for several years, and so I followed her blog, and then she's like, I'm gonna write a book, and then her name's Bianca Miller, so you should look her up on Instagram. She does a really good job of showing the behind the scenes and stuff. She'll show this really moody picture of her writing room, and it'll be she'll be like, my goal word count is such and such and such. And then she'll come on at 2 a.m. and be like, it's 2 a.m., here's my word count. I mean, that's not hard, right? But then everyone's like, yay, or oh man, tomorrow, So, but anyway, I reached out to her and was like, can I do swag bags for your release party? So I came to her, because I was like, well, she's got all these followers and she's exciting, and I'd be happy to do that. So I did that. I put a little gift card in there and whatever. So, yes.
Who's responsible for pricing the book, an independent book that you put on your shelf?
Okay, so the independent bookseller. So, I mean, not the independent bookseller, sorry, the writer. The writer. So books are always, already priced, right? They have the ISBN, and it's already priced, and so I can, with my point of sale, I use Shopify, which is not a bookseller's point of sale, but we're making it work. All I have to do is put in the ISBN or scan the ISBN, and it will populate my point of sale. So get an ISBN, make sure that barcode can populate, and it's less work for the bookseller. Because if that didn't happen, I would have, and I have a website too. It's Pretty Posy with a P-O-S-Y. Apparently I did not spell that right because nobody spells it right, .com. And I mean, like, the title, the description, the picture, the price I paid, because I have to have all that so that it can give me reports of like, what's my margins, how much you're actually making, it'll put like what the categories are, all that stuff, and all I have to do is put in the ISBN and it populates that, because I will tell you right now, if I had to punch all that in, I probably wouldn't do it. You know? So, yeah.
Expectancy of a book on your shelf.
So I would say I went to a booksellers conference, and it was fabulous. And she told, and they have like, it was like a live bookstore, and you got to go to the bookstore, and then they told you all the things you needed to know. She said she goes, what did she say? I think she said she goes through all of her her categories or genres or whatever like twice a year. So because with publisher, you can return the book. You can return books. So, but you could go like a whole year before you return it, and it's totally fine. I think it depends on the bookseller. You know, and when you're going into the bookseller and you're discussing your terms for consignment, they may already know, and they may be like, well, we'll keep it in here for 3 months, or we'll keep it in here for 6 months, or they may just say, we'll put it in and we'll see how it goes and we'll let you know. So I think that just depends on the bookseller. I think you would have to ask the bookseller. It depends on the book. So I have some independent authors. One of my best-selling books is from an independent author. I've sold 65 of these books, right? And so I'm like, and at this point, I'm buying from her. I'm not doing consignment. I'm ordering like 10 at a time, and I can't keep them on there, on my shelves, you know what I mean? But if it is someone that I'm just starting to work with, maybe like 2 or 3. But that depends on the bookseller. I mean, someone else may have a totally different idea. So, yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
To piggyback off of that, what did that specific author do well that you sell so many? Is it because your booksellers have read them all? Is it because it was marketed really well?
I think it was her marketing. I'm going to tell you who it is, and you can look up her Instagram. Her name is Ray, R-A-Y, Riley, R-I-L-E-Y. Her book is called Murder, She Sold. Thank you. Perfect. Murder, She Sold. Diving In by Bianca Miller. She does a very good job. We've sold a lot of her books too. Their marketing is really good. And I'm not really sure. I think Ray Riley has hired a PR agency. But I don't know. They go like nuts. And her book release party was nuts. And I marketed it. She gave me the graphic. She did very good. She gave me the graphics. So all I had to do was like share to my people. And of course I shared and I was excited about it. It was bonkers. I mean, we had a big line and it was so fun. She brought wine. She brought, macarons. It was great. So, but it wasn't just like, oh, I wrote a book and I haven't ever talked about it before, and now here we're having a release party, and, so. And again, her book belongs in my store. It is very, very at home in my store. And there are so many bookstores out there, and they all have their own vibe, and they all have their own thing. And so there is a home for your book. You just have to find that home. And don't waste your time places that are not your home. Does that make sense? And it doesn't mean that you have a bad book or that there's something wrong with your book. It just means that independent booksellers have limited space and limited money. And the person who's buying, they don't have like a small bookstore like mine. I don't have like a buyer for this and a buyer for that. It's me. I buy it all, right? We have all genres. Everyone's welcome. And I've tried different things. I've tried to you know, this book is getting so much attention and it's going to be fabulous and everyone's going to love it, and then nobody buys it from my store because it's like some, I don't know how to say, I call it literature, or like just like really some topic or some story that's really off the wall that maybe is really acclaimed, but that's just women who are reading for fun. That is my customer. But that doesn't mean that other bookstores, if that's not your book, other bookstores, you know, will be more like your book. So you just have to find them. And don't waste your time, you know, because you have limited time. And don't give your book to a bookstore, because you're going to give that book away and you're never going to see it again. And you've lost that book and you've lost that money. And even if you think your book belongs in a certain store and you give that book, like there's no guarantee, but you have a much better chance, right? And if you're prepared and you do your research and you're, you know, delightful and enthusiastic and you don't take too much of their time and you've built a connection, then you're much more likely to get a yes. And if you don't get a yes then, you might later, you know? So, all right, any other questions? Any other thoughts? I love it. Yes. It's still hard. Like when I owned the boutique, it was hard, and it's still hard, but it's fun. Like I enjoy obviously talking about books and book selling, and you know, I enjoy talking to people. So, and I enjoy, you know, being in my bed office, I like to call it, and like going through all the catalogs and picking out books, and you know, so yeah.
Sorry if you already talked about this, but can you talk more about the book selling conference and the conferences? Like, which book selling conferences do you go to? Which have you found to be most like exciting? I'm not in the bookstore business. I'm just a fangirl, and I just like to hear about the back end. It sounds amazing.
Okay, I will tell you, I don't go to conferences. I have 3 kids, and when I had, so at the very beginning, I told a little bit about myself. I've had a store since 2021, but it started as a clothing boutique, and then I got really burnt out. It was awful. and I had to quit. And but I have this beautiful space on Santa Fe in downtown Overland Park, and that does not come up every day, and my lease was not up. And I just can't let people down. Ralph, my sweet landlord. So I was like, well, what am I going to do? So I told my husband, I'm not going to have a clothing store anymore. I'm going to have a bookstore. And he's like, all right. And I'm like, I'm going to need you to build me some bookshelves. And he came in there. Anyway, supportive spouses. When I was a clothing store, I would go to market to buy clothes. And I really felt like I had to, because clothes are something you need to see. But it took me away a lot, and I have 3 kids. So I am very choosy about going, and I just don't feel like I need to at this point, so I do not. I would say if I would go to any, it would be like the Midwestern, you know, booksellers, so anything that like the ABA or MIBA put on, I'd probably go to those. Like I said, I went to a booksellers, like, it was more of like a training. It was a conference, but it wasn't like we're looking at everybody's books. And you know, there's a bunch of publishers set up. It was like, this is what you need to know to be a successful bookseller. And so I did do that, and I think that was very helpful. But yeah, I don't go, because my babies need me. All right, yes.
Thank you. Well, a couple of questions. So to follow up on that, then how do you do your selection? Are you know, it is a lot of fun to look through book catalogs, and so I'm just a little curious about that. And then the other question I have for you is about book launches, and not necessarily the marketing of it, but when the authors are there doing the launches, what has really hit with their audiences? Is it readings? Are they doing PowerPoints? What's been most effective?
Okay. So the first question, okay, here's my process. I'm not saying it's right, and I'm not saying I'll always do it this way, but this is how I do it. I go through the big publishers' catalogs, so like the big 5. I have a sticky note because I can't remember anything. So I have a sticky note and Edelweiss. So I go on Edelweiss. So if you don't know what Edelweiss is basically an online platform where all the publishers can put their catalogs on there. You can talk to your like you can have a sales rep, and you can talk to your sales rep kind of through Edelweiss, and they can mark up things for you, and you can make notes, and really your sales rep is gonna be like, they'll get to know you, and they'll know your store, and they'll know what books are coming that are gonna sell at your store, okay? So that makes it helpful, because I will tell you, Edelweiss, so for the first several months, so I started just ordering from Ingram, which is a wholesaler, and the positive about ordering from a wholesale, Ingram's like the biggest one, is that they're fast. They don't have a minimum unless you want free shipping, but it's only like 20 and it doesn't have to be the same book. And then all your orders are in one spot, right? You know what's coming when from where. So that's kind of their pro. But then their con is you don't get nearly as much of a discount. When you return, they charge a bit of a reshelving fee, like 15%. And then also publishers will have like special promotions, and then they'll give you marketing credit. So they'll have certain books that, like, if you put this book in your email newsletter, bless you, you'll get a credit. Like when I went to that booksellers conference, they had like their profit and loss sheet, and they had like $10,000 worth of credit from just marketing these certain books from publishers. I mean, there's certain books, and you have to then report, you know, it and now. So anyway, so I started with Ingram, but to have like a lasting business, you can't just be ordering from Ingram. So when I went on Edelweiss the first few months, I like backed away slowly. I mean, there are so many publishers. And then out of those publishers, they all have like imprints, right? So you're like, who, what? But at least with the big ones, their catalog, I mean, they have all their imprints. So it's not like you have to look through every little catalog. So, and it's a lot of books. And a lot of those books are not what I'm interested in, right? And so I go through all their catalogs, and then Edelweiss has, I don't know how people did it without Edelweiss, but you can like shelve books. So I'll just go through and just like my first, okay, that one, okay, that one, okay, that one, okay, that one. And then I look at my shelves. And then I will look, and so on Edelweiss, it'll say whether they were chosen for Indie Next, which is indie booksellers choose, library reads, which librarians choose, if it has starred reviews from you know, different literary journals or whatever, like Publishers Weekly, Kirkus, whatever. Booksellers and librarians can review it on Edelweiss, so those are all things I take into consideration. And then another thing I take into consideration is Goodreads. And that kind of comes back to Amazon, because Goodreads is an Amazon thing. But here's my thinking. If Amazon has all this money to have something like Goodreads, why the heck am I not taking advantage of it, right? Because my people are on Goodreads. And so I'll look at Goodreads, and then, you know, they obviously have a ton of reviews. So that's how I do it. And then I put like, these are my December releases, these are my January releases, and then I have a website, which this is my plan. I do everything, so it doesn't always happen, but my plan is that I have pre-orders. These are my December pre-orders, because gosh, if I could get a bunch of people to pre-order, then I'm guaranteed the money. So I'm not gonna buy books that aren't gonna sell. I have it set up to where they can pre-order, and then it'll automatically charge their car when I populate that we have gotten the books in. And I say, you can't cancel a pre-order, but you can return your book, which nobody does. We have very few returns. You know, and then pre-orders are a way to be like, oh, the publisher, I sold, okay, so Onyx Storm is a romantasy. fourth wing. The third one's coming out January 21st. I had sold 65 pre-order copies like in the summer. So if I can be like, oh, I, pre-sold 100 copies, that's how you're going to get authors, right, to come do things at your store. Okay, so does that answer your question? Yes. Okay. I mean, it's a thing. It is a time-consuming thing. And then also you have to be reordering every day for like what has sold. And you have to go through everything and you have to see, okay, this book sold today, but that doesn't mean I'm going to reorder it. Do I have 5 and 1 sold, so I really don't need to order more because I got 4 more? And then I can look and see how many have sold in the last 90 days. Well, if it's got like, I'm going to order. But if it's like, oh, I've had this for 6 months, and this is the first time it's sold, well, I'm going to let that one go, which is hard. Okay, and then release parties. Okay, and events. This goes for events, too. I have yet to do, like, a panel or any kind of, like, presentation. My space is small. So all we've done is just, like, book signings. People come in and do the book signing. So Ray Riley had a very successful release. We make everything. She made an open house. I mean, we decided on this together, but it was open house. So, and this is the same thing we're doing on the 22nd when we do our next release party. And we both market it. It is open house, so we stay open till 6. So the release party is from 6 to 8. But anyone's welcome. Like, the authors people, my people. I'm in downtown Overland Park, people who are walking by. I mean, we had someone who was jogging, and she came to, she's like, can I come in? I'm just jogging. And we're like, yeah, come on in. And then, so she brought wine, like I said, and macarons, and it's just so fun. So I have like a long entryway, and we have bookshelves on this side, and then we have our kids section, which is like open so kids can sit and read and stuff. And so she just put a table, and she has a big banner she set up behind her. She had taken pre-orders, and when it is a launch, I have the author do everything. Like, I marketed it, but it's all the pre-orders are through her. And then she hands out the pre-orders. And then, I mean, there was a long line. Everyone's excited. She takes pictures. She had somebody there to help her, of course. And then my bookseller and I were just checking people out because people bought books. And then we're just there to kind of like support her. So yeah, that's what we've done. And it's just an in and out. They have books to sell at the door. So if you haven't pre-ordered, you can buy a book at the door. But then the way we marketed it was, but to ensure a book for signing, make sure you pre-order. For the release I'm doing on next Friday, she put a gift basket together. And she's like, we can do a giveaway of some sort. And so I always try to get people to do the pre-orders. And so if you pre-order, then you're in the drawing for this. Like, you can maybe get your book in this gift basket. And then when I did the Romantasy event, I want everyone to be successful. So we had 3 authors. So I said, if you bought a book from each author, you got a coupon to my store. But you had to pre-order it. So, yeah. Does that answer your question? Yes, thank you. Okay. I haven't yet. We haven't had a ton yet, but no. It's exciting and like, and then a lot of times offering to do an event during store time. You know what I mean? Like the Romantasy event was at night, and both release parties are at night. But we just piggybacked off of, we're just staying open late. And then, but the Romance Bookstore Day was during the day. And then I also had an event that I didn't have an author at, but it was a Mother's Day event, and I had these little lattes that people could get. And, I mean, that was really fun. And that was well attended. I saw, I think it's a bookstore in St. Louis, maybe called like Main Street, I think they're called. I follow them on Instagram. They have an independent or a local author table. And I don't know if they do it every Saturday, but that's something I might try to do. But the author just comes in and has their books, and they're sitting there on a Saturday, and they, have their books for sale and can talk to people. So some stores may do that. So it doesn't have to be like this huge event, right? Yeah.
At the risk of being inappropriate, how do you get a book into the library? Do you know?
That I don't know. Okay. Yeah. I don't work in a library, so I don't know.
So you can just go on to the library's website and request that you can request anybody's book be carried on their shelves. So library website, they have, it's been a little while since I actually did it for a friend that had a book and went on there and entered her information and her book and requested it. And I would assume that somebody looks at that and says if they want to have it or not. And if you have 6 friends, maybe they could all submit it. And but it's on the library's website. They have a spot where you can ask, can you carry this book on the site? I
mean, it may be similar, like, have you done your research? I mean, libraries are libraries, kind of everybody comes here. But like, if you have I just really having like a social media presence and an email list, and like people know who you are and they're excited about your book, I think that's your best bet. But like I said, social media may not be where your people are, so you just have to like think, where are my people and how can I reach them?
So also from the library perspective, all libraries have a collection development policy, and that's posted on the website. So that's partly also they'll be looking at things like, do you have national reviews? Like, what are the things that help? And certainly suggest for purchase is one way to get noticed, but then also understanding what the library's collection development policy is. Some libraries will also buy local authors as part of that, supporting local authors if that's part of their collection development policy. But every library in this area particularly will have a collection development policy, and that's online, so that you can look at that and see how your book might fit into that.
It's all about research, right? And being prepared. I was going to say something, and I think I just lost it. But yeah. All right, any other questions? Well, I'm proud of you. You guys are writing books, and that's amazing. So I'm proud of you, and I'm rooting for you, and I really hope that this was helpful. If you did not get a bookmark, let me know. It just has my store information on it. You can follow me on Instagram. You can see what I do. It doesn't look simple, but it is.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, well, enjoy your day. I was really happy to be here.